Say anything to us, but I think we're doing.
Let's sorting. Do we have anyone on joining us via?
No, Don. Looks, it's
Just us. Well, I'd like to go ahead and call this meeting to order. It's so great to see all of you here in person. Didn't I have some things I was going to talk about on my... Steve, how are you?
Are they all the way down?
Yes, there might be some a little bit closer. So, welcome.
Hello, hello. I just called the meeting to order.
Here's the room, but Jim's going to grab some chairs.
It's all good. Well, it's all good. You didn't know there'd be an outpouring of live person.
Yeah, the last time I set up, only Christina came.
Right. Wow. We started a trend.
You guys probably need a chocolate.
Pump life back into this organization. Good to see you, Steve.
Yeah.
Right. And you're going to announce the ride, right? Yeah. Okay. Good. I thought I had maybe something to talk about other than hello in my opening comments, but I don't think I do. I think we sit down below here. So thank you all for coming. And let's see, approval of consent agenda. Did we all get a chance to? I didn't get a chance to.
I have one printout here. People need to look it over really quick.
Did it all carefully at home, very slowly, right?
I should take a look. I had it up on my phone and internet's not great in here.
Checks every mention of her name. And
Yeah, like, okay, so one second. Oh, wait, I think I was the second on that.
Do that.
Crossed out a few people that I don't like.
Don't like that one. With a little heart by her name everywhere.
No.
Now it's approved.
Yeah, that was better.
Literally.
Set this here.
Thank you. Grabbing those.
Thank you.
You might have already seen the minutes, just the meeting minutes for approval of the consent agenda. See any?
Good to meet you in person.
Yeah.
Doing well.
And better lighting. I can't figure out my Zoom lighting. Oh, I look dead on Zoom lighting. Look at that animated
On
corn.
a river or something.
I think last month I went, it was, March 15th?
Here for that one, yeah.
The month before, though, you're right, I wasn't.
This agenda actually says March 15th at the top of it. So you can jot that down, Sean, and next time you can ding her for it.
I would have caught that, but someone was hackling me while I was trying. April 19th is today, yep.
Already. Shocking. Yeah, how's the ice rink coming along? Is it, you still got ice out there?
It's all boxed up, and Morgan's good people tucked it all away, and it's ready to go next year.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well,
Year one on the books.
That's the complete ice rink committee report right there.
Yeah. Right? Well, I didn't mean to get ahead of, we're still on, item 4. Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Almost.
Was there a name that I left off that needed to be added?
As far as who was attending?
Uh-huh.
No,
Or
I
I got,
was on there. I was on there. Yeah. Josh just forgets about me easily.
So Jim moved?
It's all a blur. second? Been moved and seconded that we have approval of the consent agenda. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 5, Director's Update. Entertain it.
All right, yeah, there's lots of good things coming. So the days are getting longer, spring is Earth Week. It's like.
A week.
Yeah, I know, full week of activities. You can find all about it if you subscribe to the Park County Environmental Council newsletter. They give all the fun updates about things you can do around town. One of the things is we have St. Mary's has a group of students coming over this week or maybe early next week to help with some cleanup, which will be great. They're going to pick up trash for us. And then an event that's kind of county related is the Gardner Community Cleanup that's scheduled in Arch Park this Saturday. That's taking place from 10 to 2, and it's open to the public if you want to join. The first couple of hours, I think, are mostly focused around cleanup and just beautifying Gardner. And then from 12 to 2, there's going to be some refreshments, beverages, and then I think the National Park Service superintendent is going to do some. Also that day, I think that there's some free compost available for pickup in Gardner. The name of the location is, I can't think of it right now, but if you're interested.
You'll find it.
Find the compost, I can direct you. So that's taking place. And then I guess I'll back up really quick. A couple weeks ago, I went to the Montana Recreation, Parks, and Trails Association Conference in Great Falls, which was awesome, especially because I've been so focused on the fairgrounds for a while, and family and infrastructure kind of got in my own head, but this was a great conference to really see the big picture and see what amazing things other people are doing in Montana as far as recreation and trails, and really all of the resources that are out there that we haven't tapped into, but we can tap into. So that's some information that I kind of brought back to the Footbridge and Trails Committee. They're probably going to talk about some of that stuff in a little more detail, as well as external affairs, and it's going to flow into the master plan. Just kind of, I don't know, I guess I'm just excited that I was able to get out of the office for a couple of days and go somewhere else and feel like reinvigorated and inspired. I was like, oh, I was getting into the humbug of like, so when is the water line getting replaced at the fairgrounds?
Start again.
Got to replace the toilet, but really, I came back and I'm way more excited again about the placement. So switching away from that and back to volunteers, just a quick update. We did have some great volunteers come last week. Some of them are licensed contractors. We had some water damage and kind of mold in the bathrooms here in the ceiling. They went ahead and took those out. They paid for all the materials to replace the ceilings. They got us a new toilet. So that was super exciting. So they are folks that are working with Expedition Church. So they came from Alabama.
Aren't they the ones with the buckets and the toilets and the,
Yep, that's
during the rodeo?
Yeah, same group. Well, same
Church?
not the same church. So it's Expedition Church that works with a lot of other churches in the country. And I've kind of, I don't know, waved my hand enough saying, help me, that they come and help us a lot.
Oh, very sweet.
And we have, pretty good relationship with them. And so that was probably the first of what I would think to be 5 or 6 different volunteer groups that'll end up coming to the fairgrounds to help out.
From out of state, though.
Alabama, yep.
Great.
Yeah, they travel a long way, and they bring some money with them to give back to the community. So they didn't just help the fairgrounds, they usually work with like the Food Resource Center as well, or if there's any other nonprofits that need help, they're there to do it. So that was exciting. And then some of you know, some of you don't, the events and community coordinator position is now reopened. So we're looking to fill that. So if you know anybody that might be interested in joining the office, right now the position's part-time, but hopefully it'll be full-time in the near future. And then we're also hiring for seasonal fairground staff already. So if you know anybody that might be wanting a job, I think the pay range is $14 to $18 an hour, pretty flexible schedules. I try to keep the fridge stocked, or the freezer stocked with popsicles, so a little incentive.
How old do they have to be to work for the fairgrounds?
So last year we had somebody that was 14,
Huh?
so just so long as they can legally work with child labor laws.
Is that 14, is that when that happens?
Yeah, well, it might be 13, end of 13, beginning of 14. It's a little more difficult. Obviously, I don't want a whole, like, fleet of people that are 14, because then we would never be able to do anything besides hand cut the grass.
Marcus babysitting
Yeah, I was actually
All right.
I was very impressed. He did a very good job. Really responsible until you bring in,
That was gonna be my.
14-year-old girls, and then it's,
yeah, 14-year-old girls that are here for community service, and it's out the window.
It was gonna be my suggestion is to check in with the school
Yeah,
and see if there's somebody that needs a summer job.
so hopefully we'll have, the same, worked with us last year, come back this summer is my hope. But with probably some more help. Aside from that, kind of this week and for like the foreseeable future, several projects going on, obviously the water sewer line project, hoping that we start moving forward with that. Also, I'm working on a Northwestern Energy kind of USB grant, and that's a grant to funding to help us purchase solar panels for the exhibit building roof. The county commissioners have kind of tentatively approved getting a new roof for the exhibit building, which means we'll be able to put solar panels on it. And part of why we're able to use ARPA funding for this and go for this grant with Northwestern Energy is because the Yellowstone Bends Council asked the commissioners for ARPA funding for solar projects in the county. It's possible that there might be some additional ARPA funding available where that same organization will go and ask for funding for insulation as well, which would be great. So if we could knock out solar panels as well as insulation in this building, that would really help our energy bills a lot, thousands of dollars per year. So Jim put together a price estimate of how much money we would save over the next 30 years, and it was almost $1 million.
right, would that fit on that roof?
With, the state law says the max is 50 kW, which is what we put on the senior center. It might, I don't know, might cover half of the south roof, something like that. But that's the max you can do. Or, you know, or state legislature.
That seems
You know,
silly.
yeah. But, been that way forever. So then 50 kW is kind of the max
Per roof?
per meter.
How many meters do they have?
Typically, they would say only one installation per property if you've got multiple meters on a property.
And that would only cover about half of our current electrical use in a year,
In this building.
unless we add insulation.
Is it, and that's based on the new heating system, which is electric?
But that'll probably change once we get the HVAC project complete, which would be 2 new heat pumps in the building.
So there's 3 heat pumps up there now, and there's planned to be 2 more. So that'll replace the last of the the natural gas with electric to heat this building. So then your load would go up some more, electricity.
Yeah, there's a lot of money. Most of our, operating expenses is utilities, so if we can get that complete as well as the water line extension project, we'll save a lot of money. Aside from that, I am also communicating with Staley Engineering and some architects to try to move forward with the ADA bathroom renovations, trying to move it from the kind of plan phase into a project phase and actually get blueprints put together so that we can go out to bid. And I'm sure the master plan committee will give a little bit of an update on that as well. And then I'm also meeting with a potential social media manager on Friday to talk about helping the fairgrounds out with not just social media, but also any sort of digital marketing. Ideally, in the future, we'll be able to get a new website, but just to get somebody to help us compile like some of the photos that we have right now and basically do maybe a little bit more than the bare minimum, which is what I'm doing. Help me with putting things together for the electronic marquee, helping with like some newsletter templates. Hopefully that's what this person will be able to do until we can get an events and community coordinator that's really strong in marketing.
Is that a staff position, or you're hiring someone externally?
Yeah, so it's going to be a contracted position. So yeah, not staff, but
So we can get the word out, what's the pay on the events and community coordinator position?
oh gosh, I think it's 17 to 21 or 22.
Okay, so not that much different than the seasonal jobs, really.
Mhm.
Right.
That comes with benefits.
Okay.
So seasonal
Okay.
jobs don't, but the
Okay. With benefits, okay.
benefits, cell phone stipend, 0.75% of our health insurance coverage, so it's like $800 a month for insurance.
And they have 350 to drive on to.
350?
Yeah.
No, we don't have a 350 unfortunately. Wish we did. So, what other benefits? I'm not sure, I think they're, yeah.
Awesome.
8% match, county does an 8% match on 401K, so.
Good.
And the final update that I can think of is the Warriors Expedition, is coming through town again this summer. That is a veterans-oriented bike ride across the country, and Livingston is one of their stopover places. So right now, Sarah Sands is kind of coordinating that, and she's looking for people that might be interested in either donating meal vouchers or actually cooking meals for them or offering places to stay, or any other way that you'd like to contribute or be involved. I did offer the fairgrounds if they want to camp here or take showers here, but they come at pretty staggered times because nobody bikes at the same pace. So last year, nobody chose to come and camp at the fairgrounds because they actually had hotel vouchers. But there's other ways that we can maybe participate. So that is all I have unless there's questions. When is that? It's intermittent in July, so everybody comes through at kind of different times, which makes it hard to plan for. But
What's the car again?
it's the Warriors Expedition ride.
I should reach out to Sarah again. I'd like to understand better, like, support, 'cause, sort of so vague, like a casserole, like what, like, how does it, what do you do that's meaningful besides say, sure, call me when they get here, sort of thing? Like, what-
Receiving mail, they're a couple days out, you could be like, hey, if you want to have mail shipped to me, when you arrive, I will bring it to you, or I'll collect packages, or it could be, hey, we have a meal voucher, we'll pay for a gift card to go out to eat, or, pay for your laundry to
like
get done.
one person, because it's kind of one at a time, so they're individuals,
It
so.
could be multiple people at times, that's what makes it tough. And in my mind, I was like, well, maybe we could get them, get a couple of LRA tickets, but then only a few people might come through during the rodeo. So maybe we also need to get some, PBR tickets to give to them, just depending on when people show up. But Sarah might have a better idea.
Ride faster, you'll make the rodeo.
Yeah. And if not that, then ride slower, you'll make the PBR. So,
Yeah, motivational rodeo tickets.
Be awesome.
Well, thank you, Morgan. That is always a pleasure to hear what's going on, and sounded like, especially that conference was really inspirational, and yeah.
next year, maybe some board members can attend as well. It was nice.
How many days were you up there? 2 days?
Got there Sunday night, and then Wednesday, the conference ended, midday Wednesday.
Oh.
So, yeah, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Yeah. Met with one of the individuals I met was, spearheaded the Montana, oh gosh, now I'm going to slaughter it. He leads the Montana Rail Trails, and then got a lot of the federal taxes that are set aside for trail projects in the U.S. past, so. There's
Fun to
a lot
connect
of
with
great,
them.
a lot of great connections.
To talk to you about that kind of stuff.
Trails and Gardner.
Yeah, the Parks and Trails Committee, we don't talk a ton about it in here, but we're sort of developing in fact, Morgan had the other day, that trails should be on the master plan, which is, I think, a really clever idea. But we sort of are mentally building an empire of county trails, in part inspired by two things. One, and I'm off topic here, but I'm going to finish this off. Rails to trails, which is like, you know, ridiculously amazing for Park County in particular, because there's rails going from the far north all the way down to the far south, or the rail beds, right? So potentially we could have some amazing trails through that program if we could make that happen. And then also the city's currently proposed active transportation plan, which is super exciting. I think you'll hear about it more in Carr's report that I'm going to deliver here today, because she's in Bulgaria or somewhere. But they've put a ton of work into this amazing plan. Steve, if you haven't checked it out, you definitely need to check this thing out. And then the trails sort of like kind of run into the county line, and then they're sort of like, just sort of vagary, like, oh, it goes this way somewhere. So what a great opportunity for us to work closely with them, and like, yes, you're going to bring the trail up to the county line, and it's going to continue on in a useful way, because we're going to help make that happen. And there's a bunch of neat things with that. I'll come back to that in the committee meeting. Item number 6 is public comments, including items not on the agenda. Morgan's going to check and see if anyone's on the Zoom call. No one's here. So they're good.
Yep.
Yeah, it looks good though. It looks good. It's trim. Nice.
How to really encourage the community to be involved. Sorry about that.
Turned your back on us. You literally turned your back on us. All right, hearing no public comment, item 7, unfinished business. I don't think we have any unfinished business. There's nothing on this agenda. We've just finished all of our business 100% of the time, so we're efficient. Yeah, we're efficient. Item number 8, committee reports and recommendations. 8.1, update from the External Affairs Committee.
Yeah, so met a week ago, from Monday, a week ago last Monday. And it was Chris, Morgan, and James and myself. We met over Zoom, and we talked about a few things. The first thing was that the community events coordinator position with the Fairgrounds. I kind of wanted to give an update that we're still working on hoping to expand that position to full-time. It's my Leadership 49 group now, and we've whittled down what it is we're working on. And so I think what we're going to come out of our group project with is kind of a job description that would pad a 3/4-time job and make it full-time. And that quarter-time position would be somebody to manage like a community calendar. And that's where it would start. And then we're also going to make an outline to expand that community calendar to be more like a bigger website maybe, or something like that, that would include community resources, basically just all things Park County, that someday we would like for it to look like an Elevate Butte website, or Better Off in Billings, something like that. But realistically, that's going to take a lot more than we have to make that. So what we're trying to come out of it with is just a proposal to maybe find some kind of grant funding or something. And a few of my group mates have brought it to, I think, Steve Caldwell and maybe one other commissioners, and talked with him about it. And he thinks that realistically we could maybe find some funding, maybe some untapped ARPA funding or something like that, to expand that position for at least a year to full-time, if not longer. And then also we have some good leads on other grant funding that we might be able to tap into to expand that position. And then obviously we'd be working with Morgan to make sure that it fits. And then we'd probably have to bring it to the county commissioners at some point. But that's what we're working on. So we have not abandoned this calendar project. I will see a calendar made if it's the last thing I do. Hand-drawn calendar.
like,
I will get up at 3 in the morning every morning, and I will draw it out by hand if I have to, but I really want to see this happen. Apparently, the Chamber of Commerce has found out. They're on to us. They don't like our idea, but.
I don't know that I would say they.
She doesn't like our idea. Well, I mean,
Is they an I?
Yes, there's an R.
This is an I,
Love it.
and, I will not let that discourage this project. I honestly, that almost makes me want to do it more. But I just, we have ways we can work with the chamber. Christina here is a great conduit, for us. That's why I feel like that's why there's a board, is that, it's a larger group that we can reason with and talk to. I want the chamber to be involved in a project like this in any capacity. So, as long as Christina doesn't mind being the go-between, then there she is. Oh, I love it. Thank you. The other things that we talked about, does anybody have a question? Oh, it's a lot.
Yeah, my question is, so we heard reference to another community calendar a few minutes ago, Park County Environmental Council's calendar. Would there be overlap with that?
Not overlap, but it would be more like, this is an attempt to tie in everybody. So what I ultimately would love to see, and correct me if I'm wrong, everybody, is that a calendar that would be controlled by the position here, and so it would live in the county's website. It would be controlled by someone who has a county position, but then access could be granted to other groups as well. So it would be like, we could give the Park County Environmental Council access to plug in their stuff and then, tie it into their website. So, because ultimately I want this to be like a hub for everything. Now everybody has their own calendar, and nobody is going to take the time to check the calendars.
Right.
So
It sounds like CCECs isn't necessarily complete then. It's a subsection of what you'd want in there.
yeah, it would be a participant.
I mean, you could, the website and tabs on there.
Yeah.
Here's churches,
Yep.
here's environmental stuff, here's county stuff.
Yeah.
Here's music, here's.
One of my
whatever.
leadership
And
49.
so just make it easily navigable so that people, depending on their interests, could go and find it. And then there would be links out to these other groups.
One of my group made a fantastic spreadsheet of like every resource in Park County. That alone, just having the spreadsheet in front of you, I feel like is a huge resource. So, yeah, that would be part of it. But right now, I think the most doable thing would be trying to get this calendar going at first. And I think that would maybe get all the groups maybe like used to working with each other a little bit and working under one platform. And then, I don't know. It would be great if it could turn into like a really easy to use, cohesive website where if you wanted to know, what nonprofits were in Park County, boom, there they are. But yeah, so it's not trying to duplicate efforts, but have it be a tie together for all the
Opportunity.
Yep, exactly. That's definitely part of it, because our goal is to build community involvement.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is why the, effort's been put into this project. But yeah. So we also, part of what we did at our meeting was to just ask Morgan how the External Affairs Committee could help support her goals. And one of those that she thought of was kind of more of an intercommittee thing. We need to reach out to the Footbridge and Trails Committee and just kind of see how we can support their efforts right now. So I will be doing that and seeing if there's some way that maybe if we need to get community input or something like that, if we can work together on some way to do that, maybe a survey or something like that, we can certainly help with that. And then the other thing that Morgan said was to help with a social media manager. Christina already did that. She hooked her up with the person who does the social media stuff for the Shane Center. That's who Morgan's meeting with. And that was pretty much what we talked about. We talked a little bit also about just like beautification of the fairgrounds too. If there's any like projects we wanted to start that we had talked a little bit last year about, like a pollinator garden, for high schoolers maybe. If they were interested, my daughter was in, Montana Youth Action. She's not anymore. But there may be space for another group or something. We thought about pollinator gardens. They were talking about bees and, having something that could be like dwindling bee populations was their like topic that they were discussing. And I was like, well, you guys could maybe put in a pollinator garden at the fairgrounds. And that didn't come to fruition last summer, but, Morgan's open to it or something like that. But I do think, I will make more of an effort to reach out to the schools because I think that that's a really great way to just to build community investment is to have kids coming around here and doing something that they're proud of and you wanting to show off.
It'd be a great thing for external affairs to, if Morgan, ultimately, on Morgan, there's a plot of land and a garden and all the mechanics of that, but like soliciting interest out there, sort of marketing this opportunity to the groups that might be interested in doing some project like that. Hey, we have this plot of land that could be used for something like this, and we're looking to find a group. Seems like a good idea.
Yeah, the thing that we looked into it last year, and the hardest was winterizing the garden, thinking ahead to winterizing it, and that got a little complicated with what we wanted to grow and being able to winterize it, and then we ultimately just ended up planting a bunch of annuals. That's what we were. And they were pretty, and then they died, and now they're not going to come out because that's what annuals do. But unless they could for sure. But being able to install a garden and then properly winter it would be something that we need to ensure that we can do before I want to put a whole lot of effort into putting a garden in. But I mean, these are all things that can be done. So yeah.
And then in the front, the thing that strikes me is just tying it back to this board and this facility is really, it would be amazing if the fairgrounds spearheaded a calendar that the whole community could participate in terms of, like, as a goal, if the fairground, stuff that has to be built, and frankly, it's way bigger than anyone has any idea. I know how big it is, actually. I know exactly what needs to be done. You need all these permission models to be able to, like, who can submit to this thing, and do you have moderators, and, it just gets ugly really fast, but.
Or it gets beautiful.
Or it gets beautiful. You just have to build enough stuff.
That's what I'm worried about.
It's like, there's a calendar, and everyone can see that, and like, yeah, that's easy, calendar. But there's 500 other things that are needed to support that calendar to actually make this sort of thing work, which is why it doesn't exist now, frankly. But it would be amazing if the fairgrounds could have that be the master nexus of community calendars, and it would elevate the fairgrounds and position in terms of the communication hub. We really.
Hashtag gold.
Yeah, and obviously I'm happy to give you any of my expertise on this subject.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Update from the governance committee, that's me. And I very cleverly had no business, so I called the meeting off. Wasn't that clever of me?
Booyah.
Booyah!
That was a great support.
Yeah, exactly, right. We all had a beer separately. It was great.
It was strong.
8.3, update from the Footbridge and Trail Committee. I am playing the part of Cara tonight, since she's in somewhere. It really is Bulgaria, I think. No, pretty sure it was Europe, South America. It's one of those places, definitely starts with a B. We know that much. One of those places that starts with a B. Billings? No.
Billings.
So she gave me some great notes here. So we had our meeting on April 7th, and we discussed the city's active transportation plan and how our board needs to discuss the ways in which our board of directors can support the efforts to have these trail ideas become reality. Our committee needs to look at where the city trails end and where we could extend them into the county, and also where there are trails. We haven't done that effort yet. We just realized, looking at their plan, that, we really want to do that. We did, that might be on here separately. Oh, if it is, doesn't matter. Good segue into, I attended the PCEC group of trail advocates. I don't know, sure how else to say that. Very enthusiastic people about trails. And they had the head of, who did they drew up the study, they drew up a transportation plan, it was a Zoom call. He was in there from Boise, I believe. Talked a lot about lots of good things. One of the things that actually says in the plan, just to highlight here, is the plan establishes an order of priority. I think great. And I really agree with the order of priority that they've established, but they say very clearly in there that opportunities may arise. That means this thing just gets just take advantage of an opportunity, don't stick with this thing. The bridge could obviously be one of those things. I introduced myself in the comment section, or in the comments at the end, and our board and our committee, our Trails Committee, and how we're working on this, and we want to work closely with the group to make this whole thing happen. And it was well received, and yeah, really exciting plan. Steve, you haven't checked it out?
I have checked it out just a wee bit.
Just a wee bit, yeah.
Yeah. Most of it's your leadership for
Oh, were you in there? Oh, great, yeah. Yeah, it's really cool plan. I'm obviously super enthusiastic about it. So we talked about that. Number 2, we discussed giving Morgan feedback on the current job opening. That will be assistant position. Number 3, we discussed the need to develop a list of active projects that we and each other committee as well are working on. This is really not part of this. That's okay. Then we need to have regular updates. It's sort of a section where Cara was kind of talking about our membership as a committee and recruitment, and we got to talking about other committees and things like that, and we'll talk more about that under new business, actually. Number 4, we discussed the boundaries of our committee as an advisory committee to the commissioners. It's easy to get lost in, I don't know about you guys, but for me, it's easy to get lost in the whole advisory committee thing. I want to help get things done. In real life, I'm a doer. I get things done, and so talking about getting things doesn't feel like it's harder to kind of connect, really hook up, and feel like you're accomplishing things. And so I keep bringing that back. I know Cara, sometimes struggles with that a little bit, and so I help bring her back to that and advising it. And so I think it's just this mindset of ultimately we're supporting Morgan and her efforts, and obviously we report to the county commission. But we're not going to go rogue on Morgan here and recommend that they tear down the exhibit building, or whatever. We're going to work closely with Morgan on those things. So that was discussed again a bit in terms of getting these things done in the form of creating things that we can advise the commission that they should take action on, that they should do. And as such, we're not going to be holding bake sales or out doing trail cleanups as a board. Now, as private individuals, you should definitely have bake sales and clean up the trails. That I think we can all agree with. But we could, on the other hand, for example, could choose to advise the commissioners on that maybe they should send a snow plow or four-wheelers or something when the volunteer group is doing the trail cleanup, that there is already a volunteer group that's doing a trail cleanup on county trails, the one we have, which is going south out of town, past Murdoch's, the bike route, and that we could perhaps coordinate with those groups and then bring it to the commission and say, hey, why don't you support these volunteers with a truck or a crew or something, that is easy for the county to be able to give and leverages those volunteers. Ditto for Warrior Expeditions volunteering project. Sarah is looking for people, and so here's people. So she talks to us about it, but clearly that doesn't fit in our mandate. We're not going to, as a board, do something, unless we can think of something that we really need to advise the commission that they should do X and support this thing, why not? And if we do think of that, then great, let's make that recommendation. But as it's, buy restaurant gift cards. Talk to Sarah Stanton, and she'll tell you what to do. That's the takeaway, I think, there. Number 5, trail maintenance will be an issue that needs to be resolved by the county. So there's an opportunity, some private owners who, the rail beds got given back to the landowners. So there's not actually a rail, going south, I believe. Going north, it's all owned by the railroad still, I believe. They have the right-of-ways. There's still tracks going north. Going south, I think it's all gone back to landowners, so it would require, like, essentially getting it back in order to head south. There are landowners that are down in the immigrant area who are interested in participating in that. Their concern is they wouldn't want to give this asset over and then have a trail built and then have it turn into weeds and rot. That it would, how is it going to be maintained if they do this? Which brings the whole thing to our committee about how would a county trail get maintained? Our conclusion was essentially it becomes Morgan's problem. It does. She represents the county when it comes to trails and county parks and the fairgrounds. So it would officially be under her, under the county's insurance policy, right? It's truly the county's. Now, what can we do as a board is perhaps helps tie in with existing efforts, help Morgan create either a position or a volunteer, like a countywide volunteer group, Park County Trail Maintenance Group, and then market it, get the word out. We need people who know how to use a shovel or whatever it is, and work with the county to perhaps get them to send out a crew. And maybe we can be a facilitator, put that together. Maybe we make some recommendation to the commission to support this effort. Morgan is officially has the reins on, something like that. So that was discussed, and I think for now our plan is to try and is to not change what's going on, which is that it's getting maintained, it's getting cleaned up by this volunteer group. I think it's a PCEC group. Those guys are ridiculous powerhouses. They're doing stuff.
Try to leverage them to keep doing that.
Yeah.
They have a lot of people that work for them.
Yeah, and then maybe we can find ways, part of it's talking to them, but maybe we can help them in some way, not by talking to the commission. Number 6, Morgan says the benches, well, that's actually, there's a whole committee report on that, so I'll skip that part. Some upcoming things, May agenda items, plus check items that were not completed for April agenda. City's active transportation plan and our comments related to listening in on the PCEC meeting on April 12th. I talked about that. What is the list of active items and what timelines do we want to establish for them? Do we want to talk about any of these things? Oh, Morgan will send out a link so that we can see where county trails end and start. I'm not sure what legends there is there, but I don't think that's a thing. Yeah.
We were just both looking at Google Earth.
Yeah. Yeah, so if you don't know about these things, maps.google.com, that will show you map. You look at the city's website that you can, if you just Google active transportation plan Livingston, Montana, boom, you will find the active transportation plan. You can open it up and look at it. It shows a map. It actually shows where the city, where whoever drew the map thinks the city limits are. Let's put it that way. They're probably right, but it's someone drew that, right?
I just thought it was a certain park. Some of these things are still up for grabs.
There are many spots, it turns out, where no one really knows who owns the land. Yeah. Someone's land. I'm not sure. Yeah, right? Something about squatters' rights. Right? You can work on that. So you can look at that, and then of course you can look at Montana Cadastral, if you don't know about that one, and you can click around and you can see who owns what pieces of land. between all of those resources, you can then pull together and see where their trails are coming along and sort of find the edges of the city limits. That would be how that would be done. But,
Yeah, the city is just that, it shows the perimeter of the city. And
yes,
and I don't know what specifically what you're referring to. I'm chair of the zoning commission, so.
so you're familiar with it?
Well, I think so, and I think know what's in the city and what isn't. And they've annexed a bunch of mostly small parcels, mostly infill parcels in the last 4 or 5 months.
Yeah.
But I don't know what you guys are talking about.
That's sort of what I'm talking about, actually, is because it has been changing pretty rapidly in the scheme of government.
Yeah.
And that map on the active transportation plan, a snapshot in a period at some point in time. So it might have changed.
Yeah.
And we don't know, like, what did they get that from the city, and was it correct? And so I'm just saying, you know, taken with a grain of salt, it's probably most correct, but, you know, they've annexed a bunch of parcels recently, and so,
Mostly infill.
yeah, but,
Yeah.
For about 9 months, and we didn't know who owned Sackett Park. And we kept trying to tell the other entity to like take care of it.
Which one is that?
it's on the river on the other side of the wastewater treatment plant. There's a forest there that's actually we now believe city park.
Yeah, we just zoned that.
Yeah, you zoned out
There's
to
a pretty big sized island.
Arbor.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the island is city, but there's quite a bit of discussion and debate about that actual park, if that was county or city, and both county and city were pointing at each other saying it's theirs. And, we think we've sort of concluded that it's the city's, at least that's our position as our board. Our position is it's the city's problem.
And in a parallel
And
meeting,
Opportunity,
But we may be wrong.
All I know is we annexed it, so, we didn't annex it, we zoned it, so therefore it would have to be city.
Okay, see, more evidence that it's, definitely, most definitely.
There we go.
Been zoned. That was 10,000 words. Any,
2-hour-long meeting.
God,
We don't know how.
the trails? Yeah, what did we even talk about? These things apparently.
Their meeting was still going.
Any questions for my epic report? I think I've said all the words. We're very active people.
solve the Sackett Park dilemma is a great report.
You know where that park is.
Do you both river?
I do, I don't go up that far. I usually don't go past, Mary's, yeah.
It's just below Veterans Bridge on the left. That next half mile, not even half mile, third of a mile.
It's a cadastral in hand, and I'm like,
Actually,
there
check out
is it.
Just go drive out, Grenier
For somebody's yard, and I'm not just gonna pick a yard and be like, all right,
Yeah.
sorry.
You go on Arbor Drive to the end where my friends have a sign that says, "Don't turn around on this private drive." Right there, there's a partially cut down cottonwood forest and then a much larger standing cottonwood forest. That's what it is. All right, thanks for listening. 8.4, update plan committee.
You're looking at me. We had a meeting 3 weeks ago. Yeah. And, did a couple things. I will pass these around. I've been messing with this building for a lot longer than I've been on this board. When we first started thinking about there being an epidemic, we started looking at ventilation, so I spearheaded putting in the heating system in there.
I didn't know that.
That's how we got him to join the board.
That worked out.
I was like, oh, hey, Jim, what are you doing?
You'd come in here.
Oh, do we have a job for you?
You in here all the time, you're getting that.
Hiring tape, yeah.
Anyhow, so I've been thinking about it a lot, and so this is, for our meeting, I kind of put together just a summary of what needs to happen here, and some of it has to do with what order do things need to happen. So anyhow, pass those around, you can have one of those. That's kind of, I think, pretty much up to date. Yeah, I haven't changed it. So that's that. And then, I think the other main thing we talked about is just taking this is the floor plan that was done when the master plan was originally done. And recently, the decision has been made to, instead of having new restrooms right in the center of the building here, to put new restrooms out on the far end where there's table and chair storage out there. And I think one of the reasons is just so that the road people can access that.
So there'd be an exterior door as well as an.
Right. So that's, I think decision has been made, but a plan has not really been kind of worked out on that. So there's that factor. Then there's the factor that I really dislike the entry way coming in the building, that sequence. You're outside, and then you come into this little spot, and there's invariably twice as many people in there as you want, and then you come into the building, and it's all kind of dark and crowded, and I just love that view we've got out there. It's at certain times of the year, certain times of the day, it's the best in the valley. It really is. So because I'm an architect, fiddled with it, and I just did a rough kind of a sketch of what you might do there, and so the idea would be to bump that wall out another 8 foot that way, and
Out that way, towards the view?
no, out that way.
Where the bathrooms are gonna be?
Well, yeah, that way. So what this drawing shows,
Oh, I see.
the building ends right there now. So just bump it out that way, and that makes a little space there that could be used for hanging up coats. It could be used for just people crowding and milling around. You could set up a registration table there as people come in and out.
The entrance, basically.
Where the bulletin board is, that wall.
The current, you're talking about the current?
Yeah.
Main entrance.
The main
The
entrance.
entrance.
Yeah, yeah,
And bumping it out,
that way,
what's that?
Yeah, going in.
toward the arena. So this would face that way.
Oh, this is the part that sticks out, extending that out, making a good entrance.
Right.
I'm with you.
So this
I'm
is,
slow, but I'm not,
and I didn't, this is the existing front door
oh, gotcha.
going here. And
Oh,
so just
fantastic.
move it out that way. So, and then I just threw a roof on it, and I said, okay, well, and then, so you can start to imagine windows in this wall, and windows and doors in the back wall, being able to see yourself coming, either going in or going out there. So,
An experience door, or an experience.
I did,
We all walked around and
Oh,
imagined what
that
he
was
was
walking
imagining in the building.
imagine yourself. And so that's what this
We were all on
drawing,
the floor for a little while. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
I should be invited to these
Right?
things.
and then, the other, so the next comment I made was that, rather than these great big window walls, some of which were designed to be overhead doors, which I absolutely hate because it's just like leaving the window open all the time. They're just terrible. So, there's purlins that run, steel purlins horizontal through here, and it's at a perfect height to put windows in. So you could certainly put in blocks of windows all along that wall, which would allow people who are inside to see out and see the mountains and see the whole yard out there. So, something like that might be where this might go. And then beyond that, Morgan talked about wanting to partition up that big room using foldable or pocket kind of doorway system. And I think we
Like the
probably,
Holiday Inn has.
all these convention centers and hotels have them.
Yeah.
So, started just kind of laying that out, doing one here, and then doing one. And then, depending on the size of the event you're having, you could partition off this much, or you could partition off this space too there, and still allow that access going that way. And then I took just the size of these restrooms here and reorganized them and threw them in here, mostly to see if they would fit. And I can get them in there, and there's a reasonable sized hallway here. I do think that, you know, whoever you get to do an architect should spend some time on that. One question I have is that enough for the rodeo or for kind of a peak event kind of a thing? Is that enough restrooms?
How does the overflow? So the existing concessions.
We would keep the, okay.
Yeah.
So that may or may, that may be big enough. So
Is
then,
there still gonna be something at the other end?
yeah, and then, so the original plan has a restroom here and a restroom here, and there's a couple showers here, and then, just, utility closets or, something. That, I drew that in kind of here, so that could go on too, so that we'd have restrooms on both ends of the building. And then this space here, this is kind of where the current restroom is right here. This space here would end up being storage. So tables and chairs and whatever could go here, and then could feed this way and could feed this way.
And also, it's like phenomenal upgrades. Instead of having to haul the tables from the furthest possible end to get them.
Yeah, and then this also leaves this space kind of here, which, you know, I do think you need some kind of closet in here. You need some, you know, custodial equipment to keep these bathrooms clean and whatnot. I don't know, but there is a nice spot there for something. You know, it could be a small gathering space, but it, you know, it does, it feels to me like it could be kind of a nice little social spot.
Bathroom welcome center.
Yeah, yeah, or whatever, I don't know.
It was a really productive brainstorming session.
Yeah, that was good, really good.
Yeah.
So anyhow,
Wow.
so that's as far as I've kind of.
That is insane. What about the entrance from that end also?
Well, oh, yeah. So there's currently an overhead door here, which we would probably leave because you need to back trucks up in there to do that. And there's a man door there, but, you know, possibly we would add another man door and then throw some little roofs like this, smaller roofs than this, maybe over this door and maybe over this door here, so that you start to, you know, instead of this just kind of being a box.
Just essentially an ease to
It gives
break
you,
up.
yeah, it just mostly to break it up. That's all.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So,
That
yeah,
makes
but-
so much sense.
Oh,
Yep.
seriously, right now it's a series of like employee-only doors. Like I seriously look at every door and I'm like, which one is the entrance? Every time.
Used refrigerator box
Yeah.
with some cutouts for doors.
Yeah.
Yeah, needs a little more than
And, but then this, I guess, is another question. This plan kind of converted this space right, into some kind of a conference room or rental space in here. And then they put a overhead door kind of on, going out that way. So that could certainly stay there or whatever, or, you know, or we could, you know, change and kind of focus on using an entrance over there instead. So there's some options there in terms of, you know, what, especially what this space gets.
Well, I personally love it.
So that, I think, is all it, but then there's just this axis, this visual axis going this way, I'll turn this around. Over here. We're kind of facing that way, so there's this visual access going out this way to Livingston Peak here, and I thought rather than this gigantic building here, which would just stand in the way of any view, that if we could do two smaller buildings kind of opposing each other, and then once again, having some entrances, or, you know, here with little roofs on them or something like that, you kind of create kind of a walkway, and, you know, like during the fair, you know, you get a family in here, and they got goats, and they got horses, they got sheep and cows, and so they're in here, they're kind of here, and it just kind of keeps everybody kind of collected together, and you can kind of go back and forth this way, and then back and forth into this way too. So I think it seemed to me it kind of made for a good sort of circulation, sort of during the fair, instead of having kind of everything kind of broken apart. So that's kind of, as far as I've taken it. And then you know, if I give it back to you in terms of where you want to take it, or whether you want to get more feedback on it, or architects, or whatever.
What we discussed, it was mostly focused on the exhibit, with some talk about maybe the multi-purpose building. Jim suggests maybe moving it into two, or possibly moving it further east, so it obstructs the viewscape, but can still keep the large building if a building that size is needed, stakeholder or user groups need that size of space. So there's an ice skating rink or indoor roping arena.
Yeah, I looked at the size of indoor roping arenas, and you basically need something this big. Yeah, that's, I mean, when they're running cabs, they lose cabs, you know, come most of the way out here. So if you want an indoor arena, you would need something almost this big to do it. And whether that's, you know, reconfigure this whole yard or something, I don't know.
There's definitely some challenges with the placement of existing buildings, the historic building.
Yeah.
Like, what do we do there? Can we work around it? What do we?
Probably. Church
I'd
really
like to take
that
this building and move it right here.
Church
Yeah.
really likes
And
that
so-
building.
Yeah, if we can move that building,
Yeah.
I don't want us to done, but I don't want to.
Super
It
cool.
is
I would
super
love
cool.
to preserve it, but it is
Yeah.
in the way.
It is totally, anyway.
You know, house movers can move anything.
Yeah.
I just saw, I've got in Oregon, my daughter was a great big church. A big Victorian church, and they just picked it up and moved it. Yeah.
Love to see not only it positioned very strategically on the property to maximize the usability of the rest of the property, but also with consideration of like purpose. What is being a cool building? Yeah, we all know it's a cool building. Like, what is its purpose? Can we find a way of having it be the thing, the whatever?
Yeah, have it be like the premier building, like, look at, I don't know, look at our.
Theater in the round.
Yeah.
I think
Well,
The Montana Fiddlers Association coming to look at it.
I tell you, music.
Music, I think, is it.
Indoor Fiddlers Association.
We meet with them Thursday.
See two-stepping in there.
I fiddle, but I don't fiddle out.
Yeah.
That's our fiddling.
Using, formatting this building for conferences.
I have an idea for the External Affairs Committee. Getting community engagement about what that building should be used for.
Would it be worth talking to the museum at all to see if there's something that they could maybe?
Yeah,
Have
I
ideas
think the
for it?
museum, it would be a good place to get some input.
Yeah, I think, we have to figure out this communication. Obviously, there's a lot of work that goes into that, but maybe we talk about how,
Brilliant.
yeah, how, if we want to say that, like, building is great and we want to find purpose for it, like, what is this building used for? How could we?
Tear it down if you don't give us
Maybe
good
the new hub for
input.
the farmers market.
Tear it down.
We're tearing it down, let's get.
Get people fired up.
That will get their attention.
Yeah. Save this building.
Start rumors.
Wasn't the county worried about the cost of keeping it, because it needs work or something? I don't remember that being a really large part of the conversation. I mean, there's some work that needs to be done. I think that, roof was replaced at some point in the last 15 years, I think. But if you get enough people that love the building, they'll help.
Yeah, and if you moved it and you put it on a new foundation, raise it up a little bit, and then it would be in good shape.
Yeah, like, just, like, we love this building, we want to find purpose for it. How could this be incorporated in a great way? What are the uses, like, solicit that, let's get that out to everyone and see if we can get people to, we could come up with a bunch of great ideas. Yeah, that'll be entertaining if nothing else, right? Anything else from master plan? Not that wasn't phenomenal. Oh, I'm so excited to see you guys moving forward. Like, if I wasn't on 8 other committees, that's a lie. There's not 8 other committees, but I would love to be on master plan committee. Maybe I'll find time to attend once in a while. Thank you very much. 8.5, update from the bench at Confluence Park Committee.
A lot of updates, so I'll keep it short, because I know we're running low on time. A very lengthy topic.
Oh my, where's the bench?
People want benches, I will buy benches.
Great report.
Maybe a bench, one bench. May not be high quality, but.
One low quality bench is better than no bench.
It's a folding bench. It's in the back of her truck right now.
Portable.
13-year-old boy, first in your summer crew, they go, wait.
Oh, there's no building, you just set it up, you just unfold it.
The plaque for it.
Oh my gosh.
No, it's actually down at Confluence Park, so it'll be somewhere, Yellowstone River, in somewhat close proximity to also Confluence, River, but above the high water line. So,
On that gravel road that is down.
Put in,
So
the
kind of-
gardener put in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
so somewhere.
That's Confluence Park.
We can call it the smallmouth bench.
Small mountain bench.
I think the drivers are already somewhat interested in participating, I don't know, but I think at this point, there will be a bench.
It'll be a bench.
Maybe a better
Hold on.
bench in the future, but
Mhm.
a bench.
Love it.
Well, thank you, that's a great report.
Talk to you with the, rafting guys down there to see what their input on where that goes is, or do you?
No, so I was somewhat discouraged from making too many people informed about the bench. At risk, the chamber was worried, and the Greater Gardner Community Council was somewhat worried that if we solicited the bench, then people would start using that as their go-to destination to eat lunch or drink beer and would litter more than they already do. So I think they're wanting to just be like, ooh, surprise bench.
Down there in the HR house.
The discreet bench for the.
Soon, Gardner bums are gonna be sleeping on it.
Like Packer Park.
We gotta keep it a secret, yeah. We're gonna build a bench, but we won't tell anyone.
Why don't you build a bench and put it in Packer Park? I won't be able to use it.
I mean, yeah, the bench committee will probably talk about it again, but, I feel like that was pretty.
All right, thank you very much. 9, new business. I'm sorry I'm running late, guys. I didn't actually, I was having so much fun, I lost track of time. Are we all okay for another few minutes here, I hope? Okay. New business 9.1, strategic planning for committees. So this is something that came up in our last retreat, and I think we just sort of fell off the agenda. But the idea is that each committee would come up with a strategic plan, which sounds big and hard and important, but it's really just, what are you trying to accomplish as a committee? What's your plan? What are you trying to do? And I think that's, we're starting increasingly from at the very beginning, we're like, well, what do we actually do? we increasingly are engaging and figuring that out. But this would be a plan to actually do that. And I'd like to ask all the committees to come up with a strategic plan so that we can talk about what is it that this committee is here to do. The way this is structured, all the work gets done in the committees. This board, we just get together to have fun. No, we get together to make decisions about what the committees recommend. So the committees go off, they research, they harness Shauna's group to take polls, user polls. They come up with a plan and they bring that to the board and they say, hey, board, we want to recommend to the commission that the commission spend money to take this action, write this letter, do whatever it is that they do. And then the board considers that, here's the evidence, here's the work that the committee has put into it. Then this group decides, yes, we want to support that as a board. We take a vote, we talk to the commission and we say, commission, this is what we think you should do on this subject. That's how this all works, in case you didn't, some of us are brand new. So having a strategic plan is, what do we see? What are we trying to accomplish? And hopefully having some shorter term goals, shorter term things that you're working on, and longer arc things. Like for trails, CAR is the head of that, but I'm one of the bridge over the Yellowstone would be a longer arc project. That's a big project. It's an expensive project. But I think it has a pretty good chance of happening. So we're working on that. Then there's shorter term things like this active transportation plan, which the city intends to approve this year, like August, I believe it's on the calendar to approve or change and approve that. And so then how are we a participant in that? That'll be a shorter term sort of thing for our committee.
You all remember during our board retreat, Kristen asked the board to put together some of this strategic plan or a strategic document or something that outlines goals, because she doesn't always attend our meetings, she rarely. So this document or these documents will help her to look for grants, and possibly apply for grants, or at least let her know what we want to do.
Interesting in that there's a bit of, and it's because we're new and we're figuring out our purpose here, but there's a bit of the cart driving the horse situation, which is Kristen is just finding opportunities to get money, and then she has she's involved for so long, she knows she has a good idea of what would benefit the community and what people want, and so she's like this whole bridge, not that she's the only one, there's been Cara included, there's been a bunch of people over time who'd like to see this happen. This is a chance to flip that conversation in the direction it probably should be, which is this board figuring out what the community wants and needs, and then taking it to our grant writer and saying, hey, we'd like you to find money to do X. So coming up with that bigger plan and then driving it the other direction, like, not that I'm actually very happy. Kristen's amazing, so I want to support her and her efforts, and I don't think she has any ideas of, she's working on anything that we disagree with. Like, we've gotten behind every effort she's got going, every iron she's got in the fire, as well. Yeah, but like, let's flip that around. What are the things she doesn't know about? Let's get engaged. Let's find out what the community wants, and then let's bring that back to Kristen, who will tell us no. No, I'm just kidding.
There's a lot of things that she knows about, right? She does. She knows a lot about a lot of
She
things.
knows, she's super smart and super plugged in.
So she says that they're really useful when she's applying, rather than saying, oh, here's an opportunity, we're going to try to, figure out a plan to apply for this. It can be, no, we actually have this plan. This is why we should receive the money.
And she's very practical, so we could come back with something, and she says, you're not likely to get that funded, but if you shifted it slightly in this direction, there's all this money that everyone wants to give money for this sort of thing, so just include this group over here and you're golden. So we can have that great conversation with her and go the other direction. Can we do that? I know we're headed into the summer here, guys, and it's crazy because we sort of have the shoulder seasons are our strongest period of time because everyone's gone in the summer, and then there's the holidays. Can we do that? Can we do this in the next month? Can we put together a draft that we can share in the next board meeting? Is that enough time before we all get consumed with rafting? At least Steve and I do. Is that enough time?
For each committee to go through and do this work, you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to be a fancy formal no PowerPoint presentation required, series of bullet lists. You know, as rough as you need it to be or as polished as you have time to make it, that we can share and just talk about it. It's really you sharing with the board, and then we can talk about that, and maybe we can decide if we want to put things to a vote. It would be the fall. We have to announce anything we're going to vote on ahead of time. But I think we shouldn't plan on voting on anything this next time. I think we should share and discuss, and then we can decide if we want to take board action, like ratifying that, or we can.
We have to do one for the bench.
No. Yeah. I've actually already written this for you.
I'm like getting really frustrated with the whole thing.
It was supposed to be an easy win.
Yes, it was supposed to be easy, and it's so much.
It's so silly.
I don't know why.
Yeah.
Right?
I
I think you should come up with a strategic plan, and it should have a fancy header to just have a bullet point that says install bench. That's a strategic plan.
Back at the bench.
All right, any other new business before the board? Hearing none, public comment. Do we have anyone else? Ooh, I see an error or something.
I just switched over to my phone because it was about to die.
Oh, okay.
They're still recording.
Is there any members of the public online? Can we tell?
No, there's not.
All right, well, then there won't be any public comment. Number 11, next month's agenda items. Anyone have anything other than what we've already discussed that would be on next month's agenda? New bench project? No new bench projects or anything? Okay. That's all I have. Thanks for letting me run long, and probably because of me and my giant committee discussion. And thanks for coming down here in person. In person. It's so good to see all of you.
Cool.
Yeah, it really is. That's all I have. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
I move we adjourn.
We have a motion to adjourn. All those in favor? Any opposed? All right, thank you very much, everyone.